Namaste, everyone. Thank you for joining in this session on the nodes, where we are discussing the nodes through the houses. And this is about Rahu in the 8th house. But then before we go to the main part of the video, kindly subscribe to the channel, like the content, share it with your friends and family. And if you have a requirement for a consultation, please reach out at the number given in the description box. So Rahu in the 8th house, the serpent, okay, the Rahu Ketu axis. If Rahu goes to the 8th house, Ketu, of course, will be in the 2nd house. And this serpent, the name of the serpent, where Rahu comes to the 8th and Ketu goes to the 2nd, that name is Karkotaka. Okay, so Karkotaka is considered to be a transformative agent. Karkotaka is the name of an indigenous food or a fruit, Momortica mixta. Okay, and this fruit is poisonous in its natural state, but it can be turned into a medicine. So this is literally a kill or a cure substance, which is rendered useful by any knowledgeable healer who can turn trauma into recovery. And with Karkotaka, there is often a focus on marital harmony or a lack of marital harmony, scandals, trauma, other people's money in the form of inheritances and legacies. And the native can be a specialist in some form of disaster relief, whether in the form of surgery or other medical treatment, criminal or financial investigation, forensic accounting or tax loopholes, or psychological intervention for post-traumatic stress disorder, which is PTSD. Now, these people may also face problems that revolve around family matters and finances, as well as unanticipated complications arising from accidents. Okay, so how does this Rahu in the 8th house behave? Let's have a look. Now, 8th house is regarded as the most malefic or the most troublesome dusthana. Okay, and Rahu's presence in a malefic 8th house can indicate trouble. Okay, most astrologers will call it as a dosha. Okay, for example, the most violent type of Mangal dosha is Mars in the 8th house, where it lies hidden like an armed bomb ready to trigger havoc in the life. And this is analogous to the Mangal Sutra, which is a necklace symbolizing the marriage, which is concealed in a sacred place, its physical state reflecting the psychological state of the marriage. Now, Rahu represents desire and obsession, while Ketu denotes ambivalence and detachment. And with Rahu in the 8th and Ketu in the 2nd, this indicates a bias for sex, transformative experiences of every kind, and a fascination with the occult, sometimes at the cost of one's family connections, financial affairs, education, and proper diet. In general, Rahu in the 8th house is troublesome, as I said in the beginning, because the 8th house is the house of trauma and longevity. And Rahu here can imply that unforeseen circumstances may destabilize the normal span of life. The 8th house also rules the sexual organs. And Rahu here can indicate some sort of abnormality, whether of color or dimensions or functionality. For example, if it happens in a male, the penis may be crooked. If it is happening for a female, the labia may be overdeveloped like the hood of a cobra. Rahu in the 8th can also make the native susceptible to gout or rheumatism. And such a native having Rahu in the 8th may embrace change with an enthusiasm which is unmatched amongst all acquaintances. Perhaps these people recognize that stasis is equated to death and simply wants to push on through whatever barrier seems to block their progress, physical, emotional, psychological, sexual, or spiritual. And ultimately, the native will seek, catharsis, the purification and purgation of emotions, particularly pity and fear, through art, life experience, or any extreme change in emotion that results in renewal and restoration. Rahu in the 8th can indicate a person obsessed with acquiring special powers, whether it's the ability to perform magic tricks, be outstanding in bed, hypnotize another, or predict the future through the use of astrology. And with this 8th house Rahu, the native would want to experience transformation. Knowingly or unknowingly, these people will be drawn to situations where they might suffer accidents, reversals, or traumas that can change him psychologically, emotionally, physically, sexually or even spiritually. So these people have an understanding that life is a part of a universal cycle, and that in order to be transformed, they must go through a process requiring death before rebirth, revolution before renaissance, and destruction before recycling. And these things aren't planned, else they would not qualify as trauma. Change comes suddenly and unexpectedly. So the theme of rebirth may be readily evident in the native's life. And this includes a range of experiences, sometimes traumatic, granting successful passage to the other side and emergence in a new state. For example, psychotherapy, recovery from surgery, rescue from disaster, witness protection programs, and so on. The 8th house also rules sexual behavior, and Rahu here can suggest an obsession with sex. How does that happen? It can happen by the native being consumed by overly sexual thoughts. The native may weigh everyone he or she meets on a scale of sexual capacity, judging each on whether they might be an acceptable sex partner. And these people may be easily aroused by sexual imagery or haunted by sexual fantasies. And most of his or her vivid dreams may revolve around a sexual playlist. Now, if Rahu forms any connection with passion combos in the chart, for example, Rahu is forming a connection with Venus and Mars together, it will amplify, distort, or obsess upon these existing factors. Okay. And what are the other passion combinations? Moon and Venus, Mars and Saturn. Okay. Mars and Venus, these are all passion combinations. And the 8th house rules both sex and other people's money. So obviously the link with prostitution becomes very evident. But then, rather than actively engaging in sex for hire as a provider or a client, the native might only be involved on the periphery, on the support side as madam or pimp, or on the control side as a police detective in the vice squad. And outside of commerce, other professional affiliations involving sex include rape counselors, sex therapists, social workers, or even medical professionals who treat sexually transmitted diseases. And even in marriage, there may be financial inducement to maintain sexual relationships. So this suggests that one's motivation for sex and money are so interlinked that the native might use sex as both a lure and a bargaining chip to gain a marriage of substance. And there's a cliche, but it is very true. It says that it's just as easy to fall in love with a rich man as a poor one. But then this is a door that swings both ways, because a man can also be a gigolo or someone who cultivates a relationship for money. And the native may be attracted to socially risky or forbidden sexual relationships, for example, extramarital affairs or same-sex liaisons that could provoke scandal. And because the 8th house invokes the partner's family, there can be an incestuous relationship with some member of the spouse's family. The 8th house also rules accidents, surgeries, and trauma of every kind. And Rahu in the 8th portends misfortunes. But because it absorbs the influence of other planets, they can provide more information. For example, Saturn with Rahu may imply a fall that results in broken bones. Mars can indicate a surgery, while Jupiter can indicate a near-death experience that results in a huge spiritual transformation or a spiritual epiphany. Now, Rahu's association with the house lords will also add nuance. For example, if Rahu in the 8th is linked with the 5th lord, misfortunes arise within the context of pregnancy, for example, abortion or miscarriage. If Rahu is linked to the 12th lord, the native might engage in sex tourism, and if he runs afoul of the law, may end up in jail. So the native's karma obliges him to experience physical accident, dissection, fracture, injury, rape, surgery, or even torture. And emotionally, these people encounter fear, guilt, heartbreak, and sorrow. Psychologically, they suffer anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder, schizophrenia, or dissociative mental illness. And the native may also experience unhappiness via the spouse, either through scandal or trauma, premature death, or suicide. And there may be an inordinate focus on other people's money via gambling, inheritances, or other financial legacies, good or bad. Now, such a native may be careless of his or her own finance, yet zealously be interested in the money of others, especially those of his spouse, business partner, in-laws, and significant others. And this might well suggest a person who marries for money or who wants to. And their involvement with other people's money may be professional, for example, through banking, forensic accounting, insurance, investments, estate management, lotteries, tax shelters, etc. Now, less ethically, the 8th house rules hidden assets or secret money. And Rahu in this place suggests that the native could be involved in financial subterfuge of some kind. For example, bribes, extortion, hidden subsidies, lobbying, offshore bank accounts, secret slash funds, or even tax evasion. The 8th house also rules hidden things, and these people may be drawn to fields requiring discovery, investigation, problem solving, research, or unearthing of something buried. And this can include fields as diverse as archaeology, criminal investigation, excavation, exhumation, forensics, psychotherapy, or even treasure hunting. And in most cases, the role played by these natives is often logical and legitimate, for example, as criminal investigators, forensic accountants, psychotherapists, or research scientists. But then these obsessions may also lead the native to less traveled paths, for example, conspiracy theorist, or magician, or occultist, or spy. The 8th house also rules trauma. So the native may be professionally involved in catastrophes, for example, as a first responder at accident scenes, a trauma therapist, disaster relief worker, or toxic spill technician. The 8th house also rules death. So the native could also be involved in palliative counseling, grief management, or even mortuary work. So such a native could be a specialist in some form of recovery and rehabilitation via surgery or other medical treatment, criminal or financial investigation and reparations, forensic accounting or tax loopholes, or psychological intervention for post-traumatic stress disorder. And these people could also have talents as a healer, for example, a hypnotist, highly skilled surgeon, psychotherapist, or a shaman. The native will also sometimes go undercover, experimenting with camouflage and adopting different identities. And this can include Halloween costumes, participating in cosplay events, dressing for role play in sexual encounters, or assuming a false identity for police undercover work or espionage. The 8th house also rules mysteries of every kind. So the native will be fascinated with subjects that require investigation, research, and bringing to light something from the past. So one such field is the occult, where the absence of obvious logic, the allure of magical influence, and the psychological power arising from its mastery holds an obvious appeal. As such, these people may become fascinated with secret societies, for example, the Freemasons, the Illuminati, and other occult fraternities. Now, some of these people having Rahu in the 8th will be equally interested in fields of science, where a discipline such as quantum physics may boggle the minds of those who haven't acquainted themselves with the alternate realities that defy the conventions of traditional Newtonian physics. Okay? So this is about Rahu in the 8th house. Do let me know if you agree with the readings or the observations. Some of them will work, some of them won't. Not all of them will work as such. We all have different charts. But please do leave behind your comments in the feedback section. That is very important to me. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you soon in yet another video. Namaste. Om Gurave Namaha.